Alright, it's the number 220 of my accountability to myself, and I appreciate everyone's attention who watches this. We've got 20 days left though, and honestly, that's crazy. It's been 220 days since I started recording those videos every evening, thinking about my day, trying to analyze or trying to express some of my thoughts regarding some ideas that I have in my mind or that I studied. And yeah, we've got 20 days left, and honestly, it already feels like a habit, like a part of my day. I mean, I cannot finish my day unless I record this video. But I will stop doing that in 20 days. I'm not trying to hint at some kind of second season of that, no, because still it takes time, still I feel that I reveal too much of myself. I don't really like to share what do I do, what's on my mind with everyone, right? And there are not that much people who watch this, but still it's available, and I don't really like it. That's why sometimes I try to hold myself back, try not to say something that could reveal my weakness or stuff like that. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because today I'm gonna be talking about my day, which was pretty good. And well, I have some things. One thing that I would like to share with that I read in the book, and it would probably make sense uh, if I would say that saying, but wait, it would make sense if I said that saying, but I'm not gonna be bringing up any kind of subjects because it's almost 11 p.m. and I want to wake up tomorrow at 6:50 to go to the gym right away at 7 because I need to work out, I need to return home to have as much as possible time before my classes. But I saw my schedule for some reason. Normally my first class is supposed to start at 12:30, but tomorrow it's going to be at 8:30. I'm gonna skip this class but I'm gonna skip, but it will make sense because I promise I will allocate time from 12:30 to from 12:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. to study that subject. So yeah, and then I will go to university because I will have the last subject, the last subject from 3 to 6 p.m. But it doesn't matter. It's not what I was even what I even wanted to mention about. What I mean is that I've got some ideas, and also I would like to explain again about about habit system, about neuroplasticity, because I tried to today to go through everything and to understand it better, to be able to explain, because I can talk about that, but it's too random. I want to have concrete structure with understandable examples, because what I really like is to turn this complex information in a little easier information so that I can explain it to others, and so that it might bring some kind of value. Alright, it's been 4 minutes since I started recording this video and I didn't say anything about my day, so I should start sharing as soon as possible. The first thing, I woke up pretty late, honestly. It was 7:50 p.m. The reason for that is late time of falling asleep, right? Because I fell asleep yesterday at almost midnight. So never mind. I woke up. I spent quite a lot of time, honestly. I think 30 minutes, maybe even more, just sitting here on the chair, looking the window and thinking and writing down my thoughts. And I genuinely liked it because now I have two options. First, either I should go outside and look for a bench, take my notebook, and then put down all my thoughts, or I should stay at home and write just my thoughts down. I will try both. I've got enough time to try this thing, to experiment, to look what actually works for me. Um, what works for me best, or what works for me the best. Well, what works for me best. Um, and yeah, I've got some ideas. I liked my reflection, and I do genuinely think that it helps to get rid of sort of overthinking, because you let yourself to go through those thoughts, to go to have this, how to say it, ruminations, to you just allow your thoughts to reveal themselves, which is pretty important, right? And so yeah, that was pretty good beginning of my morning. Then I started studying French. I spent 1 hour and 10 minutes, and I tried to apply two new methods that I heard about recently. I heard about 5 unique methods that I could apply studying a language, and actually I do genuinely like those methods. That this is gonna be the only thing I will mention today about. For example, the first one is writing. But what does it mean? Normally, when we're trying to write something, we overthink about grammar, about the words, to make sure we wrote them correctly, right? And the idea is that you set a timer for 5 minutes, and you just start writing in your foreign language. In my case, I write this in French, and I would just start writing, right? I started writing. I knew I'm making mistakes, because in French it's way harder to write, actually, because always the way the word sounds like and the way it's written, this is completely different. So I would just start writing. I would have a couple of paragraphs in 5 minutes, and then afterwards I would just put it in ChatGPT or something, and I would ask for corrections, for explanation of my mistakes, and so on. And I think it's pretty good method first to practice writing, because personally I don't really like writing in foreign languages, especially when it's French, and especially when it's so hard. And second thing is that, by the way, in English, when I remember last year when I passed English exam, I've got C1 in writing, so it was my strongest area. So yeah, but I don't really like writing, but I was practicing. Like, to be honest, I was really practicing a lot back then, and well, every day I communicate in English. I like send some messages to people, so it's not even about English right now, it's more about French. So, and the other idea is that I don't really apply French, so I needed to try this method, and it worked really good, because I would just correct what I written, and I would say, all right, these are my mistakes, and I would actually have 5 minutes of this non-stop writing. So this is something that I would definitely keep doing on a regular basis. Another thing, you assign colors to grammar rules. For example, in French we have male, female, and for example, you could highlight all the male words with blue color, all the feminine words, yeah, feminine words with rose, and it would make a lot of sense. It would be way easier to memorize and to understand it, and also for uh, past and future the same way. You just choose specific colors and you highlight every time when you see this grammar when you're writing or something. And today I will even show it. So in my case, I was writing like that's the text though that I was writing for like 5 minutes. Then this is corrected version, plus I broke down a little of words that I wanted to do. This is specifically for grammar, all that stuff to determine, to assign colors. And there's also another part where I was working a little, and you can see different colors which are assigned to specific grammar rules, which actually helps because I'm paying attention more to this grammar and it's easier to comprehend how it actually works. So this is second tip that actually worked for me pretty good. Then third thing, I also wanted to try it today in the morning, but I gave up pretty fast because I needed to start my reflection and I wouldn't be able to start my reflection in French, all right, when I need to think in the morning. So I was supposed to switch in English, but anyways, it's called actor methods. When you spend the whole day thinking, writing, speaking, asking, reading in foreign language. You switch your phone in foreign language. You every time when you need to ask something, AI or Google, you use foreign language. When you're thinking, like in the morning, I thought, all right, I have a bottle and I need to fill in with water. How could I say it in French? I didn't know, so I translated. Like I'm going to fill in my bottle with water would be je vais remplir ma bouteille avec de l'eau. I don't remember, but ouais, après j'ajoute du citron et du miel. For example, that's what I could say, right? But I actually forgot the sentence how to say properly. I mean that. Alright, never mind. I will verify it after this video. So, yes, basically the idea is that you're trying to think. And it's hard. It's really hard because you need to translate a lot of stuff. You need to think a lot. And it's kind of tricky challenge and you cannot apply it in the beginning when you start studying the language. Actually, you can, but it's gonna be so hard. You literally will be obliged to translate every phrase, which is really powerful in terms of learning, but really exhausting in terms of thinking. And also it might lead to some kind of burnout. But in my case, for example, if we're talking about French, I can like 50-50 describe, I would say. There are things that I can talk about, or even more than 50 I can describe, honestly. If we're talking about all the things, I could say that je me réveille à 6h45, après je brosse les dents, et après je vais à la salle de sport, après oui, je m'entraîne, et après la salle, je prends une douche. Well, I can find those words, or even I can say something in the wrong way, but I can somehow provide this what's on my mind, right? But well, if it's, for example, if I try to do this in Turkish, which I don't know, I know only some phrases and I only started learning some grammar stuff, so I wouldn't be able to do this at all. And yeah, but by and large, it's a great method. Over the past couple of months, I noticed that I've been thinking in English mostly. Like all of the thoughts, I think the reason for that is I'm studying English. Every time I learn something, it's in English. Every time I look for some kind of information, everything's in English. And every time when I have, for example, some kind of text in Dutch or in French, and I don't understand, I translate it in English because it's way easier to find connection between, for example, French and English rather than Ukrainian and French, because those languages are too different. You cannot actually find proper logic directly, like you can, but it's harder. So it's a third method, actor method. Just try to spend the whole day thinking in foreign language and doing everything in foreign language. That's a great experience, I would say, and I would like to try doing that in French more often, but I'm gonna do this during my weekends because during the work days, busy days, I have too much stuff where I need to think, where I need to do something, and I cannot play this game. Also, when you start learning a language, it doesn't really make sense to watch movies because you don't understand anything. Like that's the point, that in the beginning you need to read, you need to, because for example, if say my French level is A2, if I'm going to read something B2 or C1, it will be so hard. It will be too hard, too much unfamiliar words. I won't be able to many unfamiliar words. I won't be able to cope with them. I will just abandon because too hard. But on the other hand, if I'm gonna be reading something A1, it might be too easy. I might understand everything, and therefore I don't really make decent progress. So for example, today I started reading, I found one novel, A2 French, and it's great. I still understand most of the things, but first it has the whole article, not article, but the whole novel includes future and past, what I need to practice also to understand it more and better, which is good, and also a little of vocabulary that I kind of know, but I don't really apply it often, therefore I don't really remember that vocabulary. So for me it works fine. Also reading, and if we're talking about watching, for example, for me it would be better to watch cartoons, but it's boring, I will be honest. Like if I was offered to do so 7 years ago, probably I would have agreed, but today, no. I don't really want to, and there is type of content that I really like watching when mostly native speakers speak, and it's harder to understand, but still I can understand the main idea, and I keep listening on that stuff, but it doesn't matter, so you don't need to overcomplicate that stuff. And also a great method, get to know someone who speaks or who learns or speaks the language you are learning, because it's way easier when someone pushes you, when you have this desire to study, because you don't do this alone. And yeah, I think that would be also very, very useful. All right, it's been 20 minutes. I didn't even start talking about my day. It's already 11 p.m. All right, so briefly, in the morning I spent 1 hour 10 studying French. Then I spent 20 minutes reading a book in French. Then I spent 25 minutes reading my book in English. Then I wanted to spend 30 minutes studying neuroscience, but I spent a little more than 1 hour. Then I needed to repeat some English text that I had. I spent 20 minutes. Then business vocabulary, I wanted to study for 1 hour, but I studied for 1 hour 40 because for some reason I don't know, it feels like I'm learning those words too slowly. Like I could do that faster, and I have more than 200 words and in those 1 hour 40 I went through 15, which is not that much. So yeah, afterwards, logistics game, I spent 1 hour 30 figuring out how it works, and it's genuinely sort of headache, but on the other hand, headache that is useful because you really get to know how this logistics process works. So not gonna complain about that, still alright. And then in the evening I spent 20 minutes studying a little Turkish, 15 minutes repeating a little French, and in total I spent, let me count, it's 35, 205, 345, 405, 505, 536, 47 hours. Alright. I spent sheer 7 hours studying because literally every time when I would take a break or something, I would stop my timer, and that wouldn't be taken into account as studying time. So today I had 7 sheer hours of studying, which is pretty good. Still, it could be a little better, but it's fine. I need only to schedule my day for tomorrow, and basically that's it. So I don't have any kind of conclusion. Therefore, I need to go to sleep. See you in the next one.